Washington Congressman Adam Smith, ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander General Philip Breedlove. General, start with you. Nice to have you back, sir. Is anything I described difficult for the U.S. military?
Well, thanks again for having me back. Yes, several of those things are difficult. So we take for granted that we can get the right targets and strike them because we have the kind of kit and pilots that can do that. But as we begin to dwindle away those you said those forces they use to externally attack, they get harder and harder to find, and we will end up in a campaign where we're having to do very specialized intelligence, ground-enabled targeting, and then highly precise delivery of effects.
Okay. Congressman, I suspect you're equally skeptical of my plan.
Well, no, I mean, your plan as it's outlined, it's true. We can hit a lot of targets. We can certainly weaken Iran. But the problem from this from the very beginning, and you and I spoke about this even before it began, was towards what end? How do you achieve a strategic
popular
effect?
Uprising with the Kurds that Trump decided to turn his back on because Erdogan and Turkey didn't like it?
Well, but also because the ability of a couple thousand Kurds to overthrow the Iranian regime was highly questionable in the minds of most people in the intel community. And that's the problem. Look, you can, go outside the dictionary, go wherever you want to describe how awful, terrible, and horrible Iran is. Mm-hmm. That doesn't lead you to a place where you're in a position to eliminate them. And we keep trying and we keep failing, and all Iran has to do is hold the Strait in the region at risk.
So we should give up?
A few drones. Pardon?
We should give up?
No, we should negotiate the best possible deal we can, Trump having stumbled us into a situation where we're not able to achieve the objectives that he set forth.
So President Trump has definitely changed how he is talking about the Iranians. He was asked pretty directly about that. Take a listen.
You said Iranian leaders were very rational people, nice people to deal with, strong people, smart people. Today you said they were scum, sick people, and being led by sick people. What changed, and do you think they're...
I got to know them. So I've said that about a lot. Now, when you say rational, I think they're much more rational than level 1, level 2. Level 1 is gone, level 2 is gone. This is level 3.
Level 3 and level 4 may be, though, more radical, General. Have the past 2 days of strikes been enough, been disproportionate enough to reset the Iranians who feel clearly by their actions that they can take advantage of President Trump's ticking time line for the midterms?
Well, before I give you the answer you really want, I want to tell you that these strikes have been productive, and they've been aimed at targets that we have been seeing develop in this timeout. And so I think all these targets have been good targets, but there's a lot of work to do before we can affect the kind of change that we need to stop the tomfoolery in the Strait. And that is the hard part of digging out the remaining capabilities that are deeply buried, and as you have seen, come out and can and will reach out and hurt us when the regime wants to. So we got some hard work to do.
And Congressman, wouldn't that work be easier? Wouldn't the Iranians take the threats more seriously if they saw a united front from America politically rather than one that keeps biting at Trump's ankles domestically?
Well, my judgment on that is no. Look, Iran's ability to keep their missiles up and their drones up, that doesn't have anything to do with whether or not the United States is united or not. And also, we live in a representative democracy. I mean, the notion that we all have to just salute whatever the president says we're going to war, I've been down that road. Okay, I've been down that road in Iraq. I've been down that road in Afghanistan. I've even been down that road in Libya.
Well, we've talked about that.
Yeah, if the president decides to do this, we all just have to support it no matter what. Does it make a marginal difference in terms of Iran's outlook? Perhaps, but I don't think it would fundamentally change the outcome, and I certainly don't think it's our obligation. We live in a representative democracy, not a state. Okay, we have to speak our minds and know what
that is
right
the
policy.
choice. That you're right. That's what makes us different. In so many ways, in so many different places in the world, are better than so many places. General, you ran the air war in Libya. That was a war that Congressman Smith supported, and it was a war that I was on the ground for in Libya. Different perspectives from all three of us. Is the idea, though, of using NATO, American air power, Arab allied air power, Israeli air power to act effectively as a forward air and close air support for a rebel force on the ground? Has that been proven that it can work now?
Well, first, may I just make a point that in the very beginning of this whole iteration, we took something off the table that I think we should not have taken off the table. I think when we made the early pronunciations that there's not going to be any boots on the ground, I think that the IRGC and the radical leadership breathed a big sigh of relief and said, we can now survive this. We know that we can hide enough stuff. We don't have to win a kinetic fight. All we have to do is live to fight, and that's what they're doing now, living to make these pinpricks, which will keep the Lloyd's of London rates up and keep people from sailing through. And so when we took that off the table publicly for everybody to know, I think we sort of encouraged and enabled what we're getting now, which is very much an irregular battle with an irregular force using pinpricks to maneuver a very great world nation in space and time. And so we now have to figure out how to take that away from them. And we either do that through a very highly informed, very much like Afghanistan, precise, highly intelligent attacks, or we reintroduce ground forces as a possibility, because that will get...
I think, Congressman, I'm going to give you the last 15 seconds. I don't think there's any chance of ground forces here. There just is. The American public isn't there.
Well, that points out the problem, and the American public shouldn't be there. I mean, to commit the number of lives and the amount of money to try to overthrow Iran, as bad as Iran is, the cost of doing that, and also there's no guarantee that that would be successful. There's no guarantee that that would topple the regime. Look, fundamental flaw, we keep thinking that U.S. military might can reshape the Middle East. We keep thinking that decade after decade, and we keep being proven wrong. So
to be fair, the Abraham Accords, the diplomacy did reshape the Middle East, but you're right about the military.
That wasn't military might.
I'm making your point. Congressman Adam Smith, General Phil Breedlove, gentlemen, thank you both very much. President Trump touched down in Turkey and wasted no time declaring victory on falling oil prices.